1 2, testing 1 2, 1 2 3, testing 1 2, 1 2 3.
Hello, test 1 2, test.
Okay, you're very welcome along to our November planning meeting. I have apologies listed from Councillor McGowan, and I know Councillor Savage will be along for the 4 o'clock section of the meeting. Are we aware of any other apologies? I think Councillor Cosby is intending to be here, but maybe for the planning applications section of the meeting. Okay, I'm not aware of any others. Declarations of interest, we'll take them in the usual fashion as the meeting progresses. We move then to appendix item 3, which is a report on community and growth. And in the absence of Olga, Tom's going to bring this report. So Tom, you can commence. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Members, this is in compliance with the Council's performance management framework. The heads of department, along with the strategic directors, have reviewed the progress to date of their current business plans. This report is a 6-monthly progress report for the period April to September for both the planning and the building control departments. And the full plans and full details are in Appendix 1. A progress rating has been applied in terms of the progress against identified targets and using various categories. Where the actions are in progress or behind, a rationale or an explanation is provided within the comments section. And the overall performance is as noted within the report. I said this report is for members' information, and both myself and Damien are here for any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Okay, members, you've heard the report. Have we any questions or queries on that one? It's just for information. So, okay, we'll move on then to item number 4, which is a report from Head of Planning, and 4.1 is a notice of listing. And Julie's going to bring that one. So, Julie, when you're ready there, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is an item for decision. It's the advance notice of listing of a telephone kiosk facing Tyrone View, Banbridge, County Armagh. The Department for Communities wrote to the Council on the 14th of October, seeking their views on the proposed listing. And the time frame for responses closes on the 25th of November. So officers from the Council sought an extension, which was granted until the 1st of December. The listing of the telephone kiosk is being considered under Section 80, brackets 1 of the Planning Act Northern Ireland 2011. Department for Communities has assessed the merits of the listing against the criteria set out in their publication of May 2019. In this case, significant criteria include style, proportion, ornamentation, plan form, alterations detracting from the structure, quality and survival of interior, setting, age, authenticity, authorship, social, cultural or economic importance and rarity. In their survey at Appendix 1, DFC have described this telephone kiosk as being fairly intact, designed in 1935 by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, and its Tudor crown cipher indicates that it is pre-1953 K6 model. It's an iconic piece of street furniture, and they're getting increasingly rare, and working examples such as this are even more so. The survey also sets out historical information and says that it was likely sited to serve the mill, which is a listed building, and is enhanced by its proximity to a cluster of listed structures related to the Ulster Canal. It is located within the small settlement of Milltown Banbridge as defined in the Armagh Area Plan. A planning history search has identified no relevant planning applications affecting the site, and there are no constraints identified on the site either. However, to the east and close by, there's a site of local nature conservation importance, a local wildlife site, an area of special scientific interest, the Ulster Canal towpath, and the cluster of listed industrial heritage sites mentioned before. As Council's views have been sought regarding the proposed listing, a draft response is attached at Appendix 2, and it is recommended that members would approve that draft response. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Julie. I suppose just on that, it's a working example, so I'm assuming BT or an equivalent owns the telephone kiosk. I'm just wondering, does that duty bind them to continue a service, or just do they look after? I mean, if it's listed, obviously can't be removed, I'm assuming. So what's sort of the longer term implications of that? I know it's not really for us to understand, what the future's going to hold, but as you say, they're getting scarcer and scarcer, but there's a reason for that, as we know, with everybody having mobile phones and that, and the demand for it decreasing. But I'm just wondering, in terms of the actual maintaining it in situ, whose responsibility then does that become if there's no longer a phone within it, or or it isn't designed as it, or to be used as it has been up until now?
Well, we did clarify that BT actually are the owners of it. Now, I wouldn't be sure about what their long-term service provision is for that telephone kiosk, but because if it goes ahead and is listed, well then it can't be removed without listed building consent, or it can't be changed in any way without listed building consent. I'm not sure about the function and whether they would run a service, but the actual structure itself and the interior as it is at the minute would form part of the listing.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, if should they just cease having a connection to the phone in terms of a service, then under street furniture, would it then fall to council to, I don't know, to then end up maintaining this forever and a day, if you like, and looking after it? I don't know. It's just something I'm not just sure about in terms of that, but I know we're not deciding on that. It was just out of interest, but maybe Damien, you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, I think the maintenance of it would lie with BT, unless they sold it to someone else. I can't imagine the council would want to take that on, but perhaps someone else might be interested in doing it. But whoever owns the kiosk would be responsible for the cost of maintaining it, managing it. But at this stage, it's Julie pointed out, it's BT at the moment who would be responsible for that.
Okay, that's fine. Any other members, any queries on this? No problem. Okay, so we're happy enough then that we go ahead with our recommendation on that. I'm happy to propose it. Okay, seconded by Councillor Toman. That's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Julie. So going on then to 4.2, which is an update on planning caseloads, and Damien's going to bring that up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Members, look, you'll see from the report before you that the live caseload for planning currently stands at 919 cases. So we're down approximately 65, I think it is, from down from 965 from last month. So during the month of October, we issued 153 decisions. We received 107 planning applications. So we actually, year to date, members have issued over 900 decisions, which puts us on course for issuing over 1,800 decisions this year if it continues. And that could be impacted by the new planning IT system coming forward. But you can see from the numbers going out that, there's a considerable amount of work being done by the department in terms of reaching planning decisions. One other stat just to mention for you is the number of call-ins. There's one call-in this month, which brings the total year to date to 16. Happy to take any questions or queries, Chair.
Okay, I mean, it's good to see, that trend, especially as we are emerging from all the restrictions and getting the normality back. It's good to see that effort being made and the decisions getting out the door. And that's a good sign for, from an economic perspective also. Any thoughts, members, on that? Happy enough then. That's for noting. And then Damien, you're on the Q1 statistical bulletin then, 4.3.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah. Members, the report before you provides an analysis of the statistical bulletin provided by the Department for Infrastructure in relation to Q1 of the current business year. That bulletin provides an overview of planning activity across Northern Ireland. And you'll note that out of 11 councils, we received the fourth highest number of planning applications in Q1, which is extremely positive news from a planning income perspective. We also issued the third highest number of decisions, and therefore we've obviously played a significant role in enabling and delivering investment in the borough and creating job opportunities as well. With regard to performance against the statutory targets, the council was successful in meeting one of the three targets for planning, and that was for planning enforcement, an area in which we not only met the target but also exceeded it. Furthermore, by processing 83% of our enforcement cases within 39 weeks, we were significantly better than the Northern Ireland average of 70 weeks. It is also worth highlighting, members, we were the third best performer of 11 councils in relation to the enforcement target. With regard to major applications, we unfortunately missed the statutory target of 30 weeks, and that is mainly attributable to the number of major applications received during Q1. As you'll see, members, we received the highest number of major applications outside of Belfast. Notwithstanding that, with an average processing time of 41 weeks, we performed significantly better than the Northern Ireland average of 51 weeks. And against the majors target, we were again the third best performing council. With regard to local applications, the council recorded an average processing time of 20.6 weeks, which missed the statutory target of 15 weeks. And while that's extremely disappointing for us, it's mainly a consequence of the ongoing challenges around high caseloads and staff vacancies. Notwithstanding that, our performance on locals during Q1 represents a significant improvement on the previous reporting period and demonstrates that real progress is being made, and we aim to use that progress as a platform on which to build going forward. Happy to take any questions or queries, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any queries on that, members? I know it is for information, but we'll take any. No, that's grand. I suppose just moving off piece slightly, but it is one I was talking to a few people about recently, and I'm not on the committee that would maybe have most involvement on it, but it's just around the issue of the chamber in Banbridge, and we've referred to it a few times. Do we have any update in terms of a yeah or a nay at this stage? I know technology was maybe one of the main issues in terms of that live feed sort of continuity around maintaining that, and the Banbridge chamber not having that capability. But as some of the members said, it probably could be done based on the information we have in play here and the knowledge that the IT team have built up on that front. Do we have any update just in terms, conscious of the Banbridge people too, the representatives on that too?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, I know the question was asked at full council last month, and that Jonathan Hayes provided a response basically to say that, yeah, at the moment the infrastructure isn't there to allow a hybrid meeting. But obviously the whole issue around whether or not these meetings go back to Banbridge is part of a wider consideration around sort of how the council looks at the management of its assets and rationalisation of its assets and so on. So at this stage, it seems a bit uncertain, but it is in the mix for consideration, and I'm hoping that a decision will be made on that sooner rather than later, Chair. But that's all I know at this stage.
Yeah, Alderman or Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it's a moot point with myself. I really think we should be considering going back to Banbridge. I just think the people of Banbridge probably feel a wee bit of a disconnect from the new council was formed. And I think keeping the planning within the Banbridge Civic building would be a move to sort of allay people's fears that Banbridge is being sort of forgot about and everything centralised in Craigavon. I think it would be advantageous that we consider going back to Banbridge for our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And we will wait further updates on that front. Moving on then to agenda item 5. Tom, again, as a report from our head of building control. So Tom, when you're ready, let's go.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request for the naming of a development consisting of 148 dwellings off the east end Craigavon, and details are contained within Appendix 1. The applicant's preferred name for the development is Ballynamoney View, and the applicant's main reason is that the development is in the Ballynamoney area and borders the Ballynamoney Lane. The members will also note that the townland of Ballynamoney is on the north of the railway lines and east of Ballynamoney Lane. And members will particularly note that the townland name is spelled without an E before the Y at the end. The applicant has been made aware of this and has been advised, that he wishes the spelling to be proposed for the proposed development to include the E, which actually reflects the Ballynamoney Lane spelling. So officers have deemed that the proposals are compliant with the council street name policy. The recommendation therefore is for members' approval of Ballynamoney View. I'm happy to take any questions members may have.
Okay, members, you've heard the report. Have we any views, or are we happy to make a proposal? Alderman Twyvell.
Yeah, I'm very happy to so propose. I think it's an appropriate name.
Thank you. Anyone to second? Alderman Anderson, thank you. Okay, then we'll move to 5.2 at home again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request for the naming of a housing development consisting of 5 dwellings off Seagull Drive in Portadown. Details are in Appendix 2. The applicant's preferred name for the development is Seagull Lane, and the applicant's main reason is this lane reflects the narrow informal street passage, and the Seagull is obviously a continuation of the theme for this area. Therefore, the recommendation to members is approval of Seagull Lane, and I'm happy to take any questions members may have.
Members, have we any questions on that one? Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, happy enough to propose a recommendation for Seagull Lane.
Alderman Twyvell.
I'll take my turn to second this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Don't see any other lights on or hands up, so we'll move on then to 5.3. Tom again, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. 5.3 is the request for the naming of a housing development consisting of 73 dwellings off the Hollows in Lurgan, and the details are contained within Appendix 3. The applicant's preferred name of the development is the Hollows Manor, and the applicant's main reason is that the preferred name is a natural continuation of the Hollows theme. Recommendation, therefore, is for members' approval to the Hollows Manor, and I'm happy to take any questions members may have.
You, Tom. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Chair. As it's Halloween not too long ago, I'd be tempted to name it Sleepy Hollows, although I think the appropriate name there is the Hollows Manor set out in the report, and be content to propose it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lavery, we have a proposal there from Councillor Lavery. I'm going to second. Councillor Duffy, thank you. Okay. That's great, Tom. That concludes that section. So at this point, we have a few confidential items to consider. So I'm just going to read a statement and then I'll ask for the live feed to be stopped. Members and online viewers, in accordance. Oh, sorry, need a proposer and seconder. Plenty of them there. So proposed by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Toman. Thank you. Okay, members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask the ICT officers to please turn off the live feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting Thank you. Okay, we're now at agenda item 7, which is applications for planning permission. I'll read the following statement. Members of the public are advised that the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee is being held in the Council Chamber in Craigavon Civic Centre. However, due to COVID restrictions, the number of persons who can physically be facilitated in the chamber is severely limited. As a result, members of the public are only able to view the meeting on YouTube, and anyone wishing to address the committee has been invited in the first instance as an attendee via Zoom. Audio recording is being used to assist in preparing the formal minutes. Therefore, anyone participating in the meeting consents to it being recorded and being live streamed on YouTube. Also, during the course of the meeting, questions may be asked by councillors who are members of the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee, of planning officers, applicants for planning permission, objectors, or those speaking on their behalf. In doing so, councillors endeavour to ascertain the information which they feel is necessary to enable them to determine the application. However, members of the public should note that councillors will not reach a conclusion as to whether an application should be approved, refused, or deferred until the debate on the application has concluded. Members have a couple of changes to the running order this evening. So Appendix 1 and now Appendix 2 have been withdrawn. So on that basis, then we're moving straight to Appendix 3, and Trudy will be given the presentation on that. So Trudy, when you're ready, you can start.
Thank you. This application relates to extensions to an existing dwelling and the construction of a new garage. It is before you this evening as objections have been received from 4 separate postal addresses. The application seeks full planning permission to erect a porch to the front elevation and a flat roof extension to the rear. The proposal also involves the erection of a garage, which includes a playroom. Members are advised that, having considered the application, officers are of the opinion that both the porch and the rear extension meet the policy tests of EXT1 of the addendum to PPS 7 and will not have an unacceptable adverse impact on the amenity of neighbouring properties. In relation to the garage, the proposal was initially to have a detached garage with a playroom and an upper floor. However, following receipt of objections, the applicant has amended this to a single-storey detached garage with a small playroom to the rear. Members are advised that during the processing of the application, officers received 12 letters of objection from 4 neighbouring properties, all of which related solely to the garage element of the scheme. 5 of the 12 letters were received following the receipt of the reduced scheme. The main points of concern raised and officers' consideration of these have been detailed in the reports circulated in advance of today's meeting. But officers, having considered the proposal and the objections received, are of the opinion that the proposal will not have a significantly adverse impact on the residential amenity of the neighbouring properties, and are of the opinion that the proposal meets the tests of policy EXT1. Officers, having taken consideration of all material matters raised, recommend the planning permission be granted. And I'll just take you through the PowerPoint. So we're located within Rich Hill, just between Armagh and Portadown. And that's our site location plan. This is an aerial photograph of the site within the wider area, and our site is in the middle of that photograph. And the next one then is a close-up, so you can see the relationship with the neighbouring properties and the existing boundary treatment there quite clearly. These photographs are taken from Armagh Road, so they're from taken at either end, so you can see the character of the area. And these are taken then from the Armagh Road looking in towards the application site. Again, taken from the Armagh Road, and you can see the access to, I think it's 49 Angela Crescent, just to the left there. So this is taken within the site. So essentially where we're looking there, the garage will go in the garden part to the rear of the dwelling there. And then these are taken then from within the site looking south and southwest. So that's showing us the relationship with the other neighbour and the rear of the property where the extension is going to go. This is taken right down at the bottom of the corner of the site, looking back up. So this is essentially where the garage is going to go. And again, slightly further up, just give a relationship with the house. This is taken then from the boundary with the adjoining neighbour, looking back across west. And again, from the bottom corner, looking across. So you can see then the 2 houses from Blenheim then in the background. And again, straight on to the back. So this is where the extension is going to go. These then are taken from Angela Crescent, so numbers 50 and 49 both objected to the proposal. And this then is taken from number 9, Blenheim Drive. Number 9 and I think number 8 were the ones that objected on Blenheim Drive. These are taken from within their gardens looking back towards the site. These are the location of the objectors. And then these are the existing and proposed floor plans. So you'll see a fairly substantial extension out the back. Now there is an existing conservatory that will be taken down as part of this, and that footprint built over. Small storm porch to the front. And then the next slide, please. And that shows the proposed garage and floor plans and the layout. And then there should be one more. That shows our section through the site, and then contextual elevation showing the neighbours. And that should be me. Thank you.
Okay, members, thank you. And we do have Ian Lenihan of Lenihan Design, who is the agent. So he is available and has speaking rights if members have particular queries. I would state, I meant to do it before Trudy started, but I had some discussions with the objectors in this because it came into my employment in Rich Hill to speak to me about it, but I was able to tell them, look, I'm chair of the committee and I can't take on board, you know, your concerns. You have the opportunity to come to the committee and averse them in the whole aspects of it and pointed them towards the plan portal for details around the planning, you know, what it looked like in terms of the actual plan. So it's just to put that on the record. So I feel I can still participate in the meeting. I haven't compromised myself in that in any way, shape or form. Members, are there any queries on this one? No, I suppose one query I would have just generally, I know this was originally a taller building, wasn't it, the garage? It was a higher pitch, is that right? Sorry, yeah.
Yes, Chair, it was originally to be quite a bit higher with a playroom above, and then taking into account the objections, the applicant amended the scheme. So it's now longer with the playroom at the back, and the height of it now is only 4.5 from floor to ridge height. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions or queries for not detecting any? Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Trudy, for presentation on this. I think we're relating to the garage all the most of the way here in this one, and was originally 2-story. How does the present proposal sit with other garages within that area? Is there similar garages of that height within or near the applicant?
Thank you. Yes, there are a number of single-story detached garages in the vicinity. Now, there wouldn't have been the higher version with the room above, but there are a number of the properties you can even see there from the presentation. There were some shown in it and some in Angela Crescent as well. So it would be fairly standard in the area. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy. Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Chair. On a similar vein, not necessarily reference to the garage, because I am looking at the view, I think, you see maybe to the west, I can't remember from the angle, but you could just about see the roof of the property over the fencing and wall from the other garden. And I am just checking to see that if in terms of the extension, are we aware of any other properties that have extensions of similar size or have been approved in the area, you know, almost immediately around it as well? I'm just conscious because there could be a precedent, because extensions normally are not terribly contentious, particularly unless you get an issue of overlooking and something like that. So I suspect we're not actually talking about overlooking or anything like that either. It's more about amenity and views and sight lines and things. So I am just checking to see if we have other applications that have been approved or in the system somewhere that show that we have approved extensions to other properties in the immediate area.
Thank you. Patricia, can I bother you to put up the aerial photograph, the one that's quite close up, please? Maybe that one maybe would be better. Thank you. Councillor Cosme, that the actual existing property appears to have extended previously. They were quite small cottages to start off with. You'll see from there, there's a number of properties there that have had outshots out the back. So this proposal actually proposes to take away one of those older outshots and sort of consolidate it on a slightly bigger footprint then. Given the size of the curtilage of this, a lot of this work wouldn't be that far off permitted development. Essentially, given the height of the garage itself, it probably would have been permitted development had it been 4 metres instead of 4.5. So there's wee nuances like that. And rather than that, they've just applied for the whole lot. But quite a lot of them have had haphazard extensions out the back, especially those smaller ones. So this wouldn't necessarily be out of character. You can't really see it from anywhere. You can see from those photographs as well that there's good boundary definition. It's in an unusual situation where we actually have Castlewell and Goals the whole way around that site. And then we actually have another band of trees for the other neighbours. So it's really quite a thick hedge. In terms of the neighbour who's adjoining, there's actually a wall already there. So we're not concerned in terms of overlooking from them. And they were the one neighbour that didn't object to any of the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thanks for that, Trudy. Just when I was looking through, if maybe Patricia, you could go to the next slide on this one. It's much more zoomed in. And to the centre of the bottom of this slide, I can see what appears to be a substantial outbuilding and with what appears to me to be 2 skylights. Would that be in similar size, or is that bigger or higher than what's being asked for? Do you know? It looks substantial to me, and obviously almost looks like a double floor with the 2 what looks like Velux windows there. So it looks quite substantial even in comparison to the property that's sitting beside. So I'm just interested to see if we have any information about that.
Thank you. Councillor Cosby, I don't have information on it in particular. It does look quite well established, and on the ground, if memory serves me right, it did have the appearance of a single story. It's more square in shape, where the one that we're looking at tonight is more rectangular, it's longer, but then the site shape's different too. So the site has the benefit of having that bigger, longer curtilage than the one that you can see there. So but as I said, I'm fairly certain. I can check it out in Google Maps if you want. But I'm fairly certain it was single story. I don't think the photograph, if you go 3 before, Patricia, I don't know that it catches that. Actually, maybe 3 after. Sorry. That one? No, we've just missed it on that one. Let's see.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Chair, for bringing me in there. Thanks very much for your report as well, Trudy. There, I'm just wondering, have you a form of words, Trudy, in terms of the condition if the committee was made to approve it in relation to the playroom? I know there's one for the garage. Would it be just similar, or would you have a different condition in mind for that one? Thank you, Chair.
Trudy.
Thank you. We actually took it that the garage as an entity because of the playroom's ancillary to it, but by all means we can change that to say garage and playroom if you were more comfortable with that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it probably would, Trudy, because I thought it was going to be 2 separate conditions. So I know it's one entity as such. So, just to avoid any confusion, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Do we take that as a proposal then at this stage? Is that reasonable to? Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to second that then if that's the case. Okay, members, any other queries? We move to the members' debate phase. I think everyone's broadly content. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The elevations and all where this carriage is going, I don't see no problem at all. I know it's a very old style bungalow compared to the ones that are doing the complaining. So, and some of them have carriages, so I don't see what their issues were.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duffy, any other comments, members? If not, then we'll move into decision phase and also bear in mind the proposal that's been made around the condition just to marry up those two separate entities. Councillor Cosby.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just not clear maybe then on Councillor Savage's suggestion, because it might be a playroom on the drawing, but whenever some children might get a bit older, it might no longer be a playroom. And I suppose if any room behind it is ancillary, you know, it could effectively be used for any. Obviously, if it was going to be used for business purposes, that would require change of use, no doubt. Is it necessary to have it? I don't really know, and I'm not sure. Is that what Councillor Savage is asking for? Just that we named specifically? I don't understand.
Councillor Savage, you can put a bit more meat on the bone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at the report. I just want to see the condition again that we have in place for the garage, and it's condition 2 there. It's notwithstanding the provisions of planning general permitted development order, Northern Ireland 2015, the garage hereby permitted should not be used at any time other than for domestic purposes, ancillary to the residential use of the dwelling known as 18 Honorary Road, Richhill. The permission hereby granted does not confer approval on the carrying out of trade or business from there. So I think if it just add the garage and playroom, I don't think that it says domestic purposes. So I think that gives us sufficient cover if it was to go to a teenager's bedroom, Chair. So, you know, I'm not going to ditch on it, but I think just to have that clarity might help.
Yeah, I'm just reading through this myself here, just to. Yeah. As you say, Councillor Cosby, it does state the business and permission hereby granted does not confer approval on the carrying out of a trade or business from there, and as you rightly said, would necessitate another procedure to go through if that were ever to be the case. With that, yeah, sorry, Damien, you wanting to come in there?
No, Chair, look, it's just if it can assist, maybe having regard to everything that's been said. You know, one possibility is that we do amend it to say the garage and playroom within the garage, just to clarify that point, picking up on what Councillor Savage has said, whether that members would be satisfied with that. Our opinion, as Trudy said initially, was that the garage covered it because the playroom is within it. But if we wanted to be specific and very clear, we could amend it to say the garage and playroom within the garage. If members were content with that, just a suggestion, Chair.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm fairly content with it as it stands. With the I mean, it is listed as a, to be fair to Councillor Savage, as a garage and playroom with playroom. So the two entities are mentioned. Whether, you know, I suppose it doesn't do any harm in my view to have it prescribed as so. So I'm fairly content with that. Members, are we able to move then towards a decision on that basis? Sorry, Trudy.
Thank you. Finally got Google Maps up. It's a single story appearance. We reckon it's probably a 5-meter ridge, give or take, so slightly taller than the one that we're looking at. Just to clarify that from earlier. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy. Okay, members, can we move to decision phase then? Are we a proposer and seconder? Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, I'll accept the officer's recommendation to approve.
Thank you. Alderman Anderson.
I'm sorry. I'll be the second the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Members, I don't see any other hands up or lights on. So thanks, member. That concludes Appendix 3 then. So we move to Appendix 4. And Nicolette is going to present, sorry, Councillor Tolman.
Thanks, Chair. Just from the outset, I notice a representation has been made by my former employer, but I haven't taken any place within that representation. So just wanted to clear that from the outset. Thanks.
Okay, that'll be noted. Thank you, Councillor Tolman. Okay, Nicola, as I said, is going to present this one. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, we're going to bring the. We have a few representatives coming in on this one. So. And Sheila Curtin, you're online. Can you hear us okay? I'll just do that wee sound check at the minute if you could confirm.
I can hear you.
We can hear you. That's great, Sheila.
Okay.
So, thank you. Okay, I'll do a wee sound check for Julie then as well. If you could unmute Julie and just let us know you can hear us and then we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
That's great, thank you. Thanks. Then with Joe, you're very welcome to the meeting. Take a wee pew there. Thanks. So that's everybody in place, and we can hear and we can see everybody. So that's good. So at this point, then I think I'm good then to move to Nicola for our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application is for a hay and machinery shed on a farm located off Knocknamuckley Lane. The shed will have a floor space of 161.9 square metres. The full consideration is set out in the planning report. The main principle of development focuses on CTY 12 for agricultural and forestry development. The site is an active farm. The applicant has demonstrated that the proposal is necessary for the efficient use of the farm. The shed has limited views from public vantage points and visually integrates. There's no impact on natural or built heritage. It will not result in a detrimental impact on residential amenity because it's not for livestock and can be conditioned for hay and machinery only. The applicant has demonstrated there's no existing suitable buildings on the holding. Its design and materials are sympathetic in the rural area, and it's sited beside existing farm or forestry buildings. There have been objections raised to this proposal, including a petition, which has been considered in full within the planning report. An addendum has been provided due to the recent submissions, and there's an existing third-party dwelling, number 30, adjacent to the site, and an outstanding appeal for an off-site replacement dwelling. Officers have considered that there's no impact from the proposal on the existing dwelling or the adjacent pending site for appeal, given the purpose of the shed. And the recommendation is to approve. And I'll just go through the presentation. So this is the site. As you can see, it's just east of Drumnacanvey, off the Knock Road on Knocknamuckley Lane. Next slide. This is an aerial view of the site. Next slide. This is the site location plan within the farm. Next slide. This is the farm layout provided. Next slide, please. Just elevations and floor plans of the shed. Part of it's already in place and there's a small extension proposed. Next slide, please. It's just more details, really, just a slightly different scale. Next slide, please. So this is a photograph of the site, of what's there at the minute. Next slide, please. And that's then a view from the other direction, looking towards the site, and you can see the farmhouse just in behind there, in the background. Next slide, please. This is then a view from the back of number 32, Knocknamuckley Lane, looking towards the rear of the shed and the vegetation and the boundary really there. The appeal site is actually just immediately in that foreground, just behind that area there where you can see the clump of fill. Next slide, please. This is the only real vantage point of it from the public road, just off Knocknamuckley Lane. Next slide, please. This is the appeal which is currently under consideration. It was previously presented to members last year, and it's currently the appeal still underway at the minute. But I've outlined the application site in red, and this is the concept drawing that was submitted for the appeal. But as you can see, there is a dwelling, an existing third-party dwelling number 30, which is actually in closer proximity to the application site. And this has already been considered anyway within the original planning report, but both have now been considered within the addendum. Next slide, please. And that's just some of the distances that I've provided just to show to clarify that matter. I think that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Nicola, thank you very much. So we move now to our representations. Firstly, by those in objection to the application. So we have with us Joe Colvin and Sheila Curtin. So I understand Joe is going to speak first, and you're 3 minutes now between you. So between you and Sheila, there's 3 minutes. So it's up to you how that's split. But your timer will be displayed in front of you, and as soon as you start talking, Joe, that clock will start ticking down. It's up to you then. You manage your time. Then when you stop, Sheila's entitled then to start, and the time will then expire after 3 minutes, and I'll bring it to a conclusion then. So, Joe, I'll just activate your mic, and then you can start as soon as it's activated.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. In this prolonged planning saga, my application for a dwelling being lodged in January 17 was the first event to occur, immediately adjacent to the shed application. With only a 12-metre separation distance from the application for the dwelling to this application for a shed. This shed application before you was lodged over 20 months after my application. This is why it has been held back until now. I have appealed the decision I received in March, and I expect to receive a decision imminently. Therefore, I would respectfully ask that the committee defer issuing a decision until the conclusion of my appeal. Thank you, Chair.
If I may interject now, good afternoon. Basically, we would say that the decision before the committee members today is not full in that it lacks some material considerations. Obviously, the PAC decision, which Mr. Colvin has referred to, we would say that that is a major material consideration with regards to neighbouring amenity. Also, the application lacks a Northern Ireland diverse biodiversity checklist, which is a requirement under PPS2. We know that the shared environmental services were consulted. However, there is no evidence of the consultation on the planning portal, either an outgoing consultation or consultation response for consideration. This application is for full planning permission. However, the plans lack details regarding existing ground levels, finished floor levels. No colour specification has been provided with regards to the proposed clotting. Landscaping details, both existing and proposed, haven't been provided. In the absence of detailed landscaping plans, we see how it is difficult to possibly enforce condition number 5. Basically, we cannot see how the committee can reach an opinion today without being properly informed of all the material considerations, and respectfully request that the application is deferred based on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Joe. We'll now move to Julie Telford. And Julie, you will have 3 minutes to make your observations and comments, and the timer will show you how much is left. So you can start as soon as you wish. Thank you.
Thank you. My family has been farming at Dr. Muckley Lane from at least the early 1800s, and my husband and I have 2 young sons. We have a mixed farm, including pedigree Limousin cattle herd, for which hay is an important part of their diet. We produce most of our own winter fodder and only occasionally need to buy an extra sell-off surplus. Following family bereavements, we lost the use of a hay and machinery store, so this shed is absolutely essential, but does not provide us with any additional storage space as such. In August 2016, we consulted with planning in relation to building a livestock shed on this site. However, we were told we could not build a livestock shed within 75 metres of an unassociated dwelling. Therefore, we built this hay and machinery store on this site and built a livestock shed under permitted development rights further back across the field. This shed has been designed specifically to enable trailers of hay to be reversed in for storage pending unloading, which is particularly important in Northern Ireland if and when adverse weather comes in, and also to enable access for hay lifting machinery to help reduce manual handling. We have been using this shed for 4 years now. Some hay making machinery and our cattle trailer are stored outside, so our application includes to extend it slightly between this and an adjacent shed. A building or housing developer has objected to this application. Members may recall from previous committee meetings that I have objected to him building housing within 75 metres of our livestock sheds. When I submitted this store application, the developer spent 3 or 4 weeks around Christmas that year going door to door to some 190 houses with a petition, some 3/4 of a mile away. He gave verbal and written submissions which were grossly misleading, and it is clearly him seeking revenge for me having objected to his development. Despite this, his best efforts, the petition was not well supported. But just to be clear, pigs are not fed on hay, and the design of the shed means that it's not suitable for livestock housing. Only a few weeks after the developer submitted the petition to the planners, having portrayed the shed as a significant nuisance, he then proceeded to submit revised plans for one of his house applications, which said, and I quote, "Existing hay shed will act as acoustic screen from existing farmyard activity." While the shed would not act as an acoustic screen, it is clear that the developer changes the narrative significantly to suit his agenda, and when it comes to his development, has actually portrayed the shed as a benefit. The use of the shed for storage and the fact that it's immediately adjacent to our existing farmyard means that this shed in its own right does not have a negative amenity impact on neighbouring properties. Thank you.
Okay, members. Thank you, and we have heard those submissions. Now open to questions for the planner or those in support or against the application that are here today, members. So I'm in your hands. I'm happy to take any queries at this point. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If they said the house that was applied for is sitting with planning appeals, if this shed was to go ahead, would it have any impact on their decision?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Nicola?
Thank you, Chair. No, they've already been through the procedures. All the document has been submitted in regards to the consideration of the appeal. So that's a separate process. That's nothing which we have anything to consider in terms of ourselves. In terms of the other way around, though, how this would impact should a resident or whatever be located, should they approve a house there, I have considered that in the addendum. So that has been the material consideration of should it be approved has been considered in the addendum that I submitted to members.
So Councillor Savage.
Thank you very much, Chair. Nicola, thanks for your report. Nicola, just in relation to the extension there, the floor plan, is that just going to be what's already there, just an extension to that? Will it remain open-ended at either end and have that access for vehicles as well? Just to clarify just for my own knowledge, really. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Nicola.
No, the new shed, the extension will actually have a closed off end to the western elevation. The eastern side will be open to one side, and then there will be areas open to the front. If you need to see that, the plans were part of the presentation, which should show that, but there will be one side which will be opened up, but the rest will be closed except for the two openings at the front.
Mr. Cosby.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to just some of the stuff that Sheila had mentioned, I think she used the words lack of material consideration in relation to neighbouring amenities, biodiversity checklist, and the lack of detailed landscaping. I am conscious that that was just thrown out to us there, and I'd be keen to get a response maybe from Nicola or the planners just to address some of those issues that have been highlighted. Thank you.
Yep, Nicola, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The first issue in terms of material consideration of taking into account the amenity, I mean, as I've just said there, that has been considered. It hasn't been missed. It's within the addendum report, and we have considered that. In terms of biodiversity checklist, this site isn't in a sensitive area. There isn't one submitted, but there is a shed in place already on the site, and the small extension will involve no removal of vegetation. Any biodiversity checklist that would be submitted for here would be able to be completed by the applicant themselves. It doesn't need to be completed because it's not a sensitive area, but officers have considered that in terms of the assessment within the report, that there is no impact on natural features. And in terms of landscaping details, there is an addition to the condition, which is within the addendum report in terms of the retention of that vegetation to the rear of the site along that boundary. So that has been provided.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Chair. And just sort of to clarify a point which I think Councillor Duffy pointed on with Nicola. And again, I do remember the previous application for the Knocknamuckly site that's currently with the PSC. And I think the main issue with that was the other shed on that site rather than this hay shed, and the head shed was sort of immaterial. And can you confirm, Nicola, that is still the case, as you mentioned with Councillor Duffy, that even if this application was to be approved, the residential or alleged residential amenity from this hay shed is immaterial to that sort of refusal, because the refusal is based upon the other shed there at the top corner of the field, the top right-hand corner of the field, which is used for animals, and the hay shed would be only for hay and machinery, and that's conditioned. And the planner's report was just to provide clarification on that point, so that we would be, if we're minded to take a decision on this one today, and that any potential legal process is a separate matter altogether. Just clarity on that.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to confirm that the adjacent appeal is, there are concerns in regard to residential amenity, but that's in regards to a shed which was approved as a certificate of lawfulness, which is under construction. But it's not this shed, it's a shed adjacent further up the field, which has issues in regards to residential amenity. That shed's being used for livestock purposes, and that's why there's a concern. In regards to this is specifically for hay and machinery and can be conditioned as such. So we have no objections or concerns in regards to residential amenity on that basis. Hopefully that clarifies.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. Alderman Barr had his hand up, but it's down now, so I'm assuming he's content there with things. Any other questions or queries, members? Sheila, I can see your hand up, but under the I suppose the protocol of the committee, the question has to be asked, and anybody's free to do that, of course, at this stage. Councillor Lavery.
Yeah, I suppose it's just in the interest of fairness. If Sheila's any point on that?
Okay, Sheila, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Avery. It's just regards to two of the points I made regarding the information that we feel is not present tonight is the finished floor levels. I've never seen a full application, or in recent times I haven't seen a full application been approved or recommended for approval that's lacking existing floor levels and proposed floor levels. So the drawings are lacking that information. They're also lacking the information regarding the specification of what colour the cladding is proposed to be. These are matters that are relevant for the conditions and enforceability of those conditions. And just with regards to the PAC, what we're asking is time for the PAC to have the decision issued regarding the appeal, not to try and decipher between us today what the PAC feel about it. So all we're asking is that this decision is deferred until the PAC make up their mind regarding the PAC decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cosby.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I hear what Sheila's saying, so I want to try and see if Nicola can address this point, because and pardon my ignorance here, but the drawings don't show floor levels. But my eyes don't deceive me, because what I see is actually ground level. So there is no effective floor there. It is just the bare ground. So would it be a requirement to assess an application or material consideration need to be made on the basis of providing floor level if you're actually going to use the natural ground that exists, and you're not putting in concrete floors or bases or sub bases or anything like that? It is literally just on the ground. So would that be required in order to make a proper decision on a planning application?
Well, that too, as well as the fact that it's an existing, the majority of the shed is actually in place, so we can see exactly how it's constructed and how it's built on the ground. So, but yes, it does go right to the ground. There is no subfloor put in or no other details, so it wouldn't be required on the basis that it is being retained. Whatever's being proposed is shown as being exactly the same, you know, in terms of how it fits across the site. So I don't necessarily see how that would stop us making a decision here today. Also, in terms of the specification for colour cladding, I mean, it's behind vegetation, it's on the farm site. There's already it's already in place as well, and you can see the photographs again. So if members wish to, I'm sure we could put a condition on in regards to the colour if that was something which they felt was an important issue today.
Okay, thanks, Nicola. Any other questions, members? Any of our members here present? No problem. Okay, we can move then to the debate phase. Councillor Cosby.
Sorry, Chair, just before we go to the debate phase, I want to just get clarity on another issue, if I can, because it'll probably help determine as to you be considering a deferral or not. But in relation to the application that's under appeal, and apologies if I'm going to confuse two issues. I did hear Julie mention something in that one of the applications, and I think it was the application under appeal, and I'm not sure if I picked it up correctly or not, but reference was made in that application to this hay shade as acting as a sound barrier and of being benefit to that application is being made. Can I get some clarity just either from Julie or a planner in relation to that point? Because on one hand, we're being asked to defer this off on the basis that that an appeal would be heard or made. But at the same time, it appears to me, if I have picked it up correctly, and I'm happy to be corrected, but if I picked it up correctly, that it's actually argued in that appeal that this shed is acting as a sound barrier. Can I get some clarity on that? And maybe Julie has the information on that. And if officers have access to that as well. I don't know.
Okay, I suppose firstly I'll ask if officers have access to that. It's maybe don't. I'm assuming. Nicola, if you could just confirm either way.
I don't have details in regards to that. The only information would be the plan that I'd shown you on the presentation in regards to the concept. But I've considered, I would consider that has been considered within that addendum, that should this be approved at appeal, that the third party, premises, if it was to be placed where the concept is shown, then really we have considered it as part of this debate today and as part of that addendum in terms of our report writing.
I suppose I would say on that, we're often reminded that we can only consider what's in front of us, but I do get the fact that the PSE is involved in that particular case, but I would remind members that remains the case, that we can only really consider, and Nicola has conditioned the application, I suppose, to cover eventualities in that regard. But Councillor Cosby, happy to hear your further thoughts if you have them. Thank you.
I accept what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, and I entirely agree with you, although my quandary is that we're being asked to defer on the basis this appeal is ongoing, and if at one hand we have an ongoing appeal that has used the example of this shed as being a sound barrier in a positive sense for an application, my head's going to the fact that I think maybe we're being asked to do something that actually, if on appeal the applicant was successful and this was being the sound barrier, surely it would be a positive thing. So I'm kind of trying to get my head around whether deferral is the right thing to do or not at this stage, but I'm just not sure where Julie has got that information. It has been raised in the floor, and I feel like I want to hear a wee bit more about it just for clarity. I don't want to get into he said, she said, but if it has been put on the public record in terms of another space, and maybe we require some legal opinion about this, but I'm just interested because the comment was made and I don't think it can go unaddressed.
Okay, Councillor Cosby, I will ask Julie to come in at this point. I would say, Julie, if you just keep your remarks factual, I'll be less keen on you diverging down the route of petitions and what X did or Y did, in the run up to this. So if you could just base it on just in total answer to Councillor Cosby's question around, I know you made a quote. I think that was around the quote you made. I think you did use the words "and I quote." So if you just refer to that and give us that detail again, thanks.
Yes, I'm referring to the plans which Mr. Colvin, the building developer, submitted to ABC Council on the 5th of the 4th, 19. And he also submitted the same drawings to the Planning Appeals Commission on the 1st of the 9th, 21. That drawing, I have it here in front of me, which is his revised plans. And up here, he has referred to, I don't know whether you can see that or not, but he has referred to our hay shed, saying existing hay shed will act as acoustic screen from existing farmyard activity. So there is a copy of that within that planning application, which the planners will have in their office. The reference number is LA08 2017 0206, 0203 / I don't know whether that's a dot or a zero, I'm not sure which, but or an O, sorry, I'm not sure which that is for the reference number, but that's what it says.
Okay, thank you for that clarity, Julie. Damien, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And look, I'll rely on Nicola to sort of clear up any points here. But as I understand it, the appeal that's ongoing is based on the potentially unacceptable adverse impact of a shed that's occupied by livestock, the potential impact of that on the dwelling that Mr. Colvin is proposing to build. This application is for a different shed. And so the two matters are to a large extent unrelated, but members, if anything, the approval of the proposed development would, if anything, benefit the outcome of the appeal for the gentleman here this evening, because as already stated, it could potentially serve to mitigate some of the adverse effects of the shed that's occupied by livestock on the adjoining site. So look, I'm hoping that helps to clarify some of the points that have been made, and I'm happy to pick up on any queries around that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, members, any other points we want to raise at this stage in the debate phase? Nope. Okay. Thank you. We'll move into discussion phase now, members. So I'm happy to take proposal. Councillor Lavra.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I've listened to Planning Officer very carefully, as well as Joe, Sheila and Julie. And my own view on this is that the officer recommendation before us here is correct, and that we are talking about an existing shed which has been in place. And as noted, Nicola has considered the potential plan appeal case in their own report and still come to the same conclusion, and that the issues relating to that application are relating to a different livestock shed and not this hay shed. So I'd be content that I think that the officer recommendation is important, given that there is already the condition within the potential approval. Condition 3, that's the buildings hereby be unused for storage of hay and agricultural machinery. And obviously, if the person goes off of those uses, there's the potential rate of enforcement there. So I think that would cover any of those residential concerns. But my own view is that I'd be leaning to accept the approval, Chair, but it'd be interesting to hear what other members' views are.
Okay, is that, Peter, just to, Councillor Larry, we are in decision phase. Is that a proposal, just if you could clarify?
Oh, I thought we were in the debate stage, just.
Sorry, I've just moved out of it. Sorry, go on ahead.
So I thought we were in the debate and discussion, but I see maybe there's another hands up. If I don't want to interrupt other members' views before any proposals are made.
Okay, well, I'll just clarify we are now in decision phase. So Alderman Barr.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies, and don't have on the screen on because my Wi-Fi is being blown out all over the show. The wind's outside. I actually thought Councillor Lavery was going to propose there, and for exactly the same reasons that Councillor Lavery had said there, I'm happy with the recommendation, and I will propose the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, fine. And then I'm keeping in order that I've taken my hands. Councillor Cosby.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And yeah, having heard the arguments and discussions on officers covering the points raised and following up with additional information via the addendum, I'm happy to second the proposal for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands up or lights on, members, so we will take it as approved then, and we will move. Thanks, I suppose, to our contributors there that have joined us online and in person. And we will move now to appendix number 5, and Sinead is going to present that application to us.
Thank you, Chair. This plan application is section 54 application seeking to amend condition number 2 of plan approval LA08 2019-0999F to change drawing number 22A to 22B to allow for an alteration to the previously approved private streets determination drawing. This application is before the Plan and Regulatory Service Committee because it relates to a condition attached to the permission of a major planning application. Officers have taken that members have read the report in full, so this is a synopsis only. A section 54 application is for the development of land without complying with conditions subject to which the previous plan of permission was granted. In considering this application, members must only consider the question of the condition in which this application relates, Consequently, the scope of the proposal is in principle more limited. However, members are entitled to consider the circumstances that led to the previous original grant of the plan of permission. In considering this application, the developer has had complication getting technical approval of structures, otherwise known as TAS approval, for underneath the archway of part of the approved application. So the new proposal removes the determination of the laneway and turning head going under the archway, and as such will remove that TAS constraint. Members are advised that TAS approval sits outside the remit of the planning remit, and in considering this application, officers have regard to the SPPS and Planning Policy Statement 3, access, movement and parking in particular, which ensures that any approved development will provide for a proper, safe and convenient means of access to the development. In consultation with DFA Roads, officers are content that the revised PSD drawing will still provide for a proper, safe and convenient means of access to the development, and as such are recommending approving this application. If members are minded to approve the application, all the conditions of the previous original plan of permission to which the new plan of permission is subject are required to be restated unless they've already been discharged or complied with, and any new conditions can be added if they relate to the proposal. In this case, members are advised that condition number 16, 17 or 18 are different, fresh conditions than is approved under the application LAO 8 2019 999F. Officers are of the opinion this proposal should be granted. Just take me through the PowerPoint presentation just to, I suppose, give you a visual aspect of what's proposed. So that's the location of the site within the general area. So it's right in the centre of Armagh City. Next slide, please. And the site in red is an aerial view of the site that's slightly changed because construction work is ongoing at the present time. Next slide, please. So that's the site location plan as proposed and as approved previously. And that's the private streets drawn as approved. So it's that leg to the right-hand side, which I suppose links the Ogle Street down to the car park to the south. However, it was never a through road. There's bullards to the south that was approved and is still to be approved. So through road and then the wee section in underneath the archway. Next slide, please. So you can see that's the private streets drawn as proposed with that part determined removed. So that shows the elevation as proposed along that laneway, which was called Laneway Mews, and the archway underneath, which takes to an internal courtyard and the houses off that. This development is handed over to the Housing Association and will be part of their management and maintenance regime. And that just shows a 3D visual in context, but just to the south of that dwelling house there, it probably gives the illusion that you can go on through, but there actually is bollards approved. There's not a through access way as approved under the application 2019 999F, and it's not a through way under this application either. That just shows a few photographs, and I do apologise, it's still a construction site, so it may not give you much context, but that's just the Ogle Street elevation. And that then is the link route down. It's called Mews Lane, was a wee pathway. It's now going to be turned into a laneway. And that just shows another closer up of Mews Lane, and apologise, I couldn't get actually in. Oh, there must have been added on. There's not there's actually yet finished, Patricia, sorry. That must have been the other slide appended to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sinead. No one presenting on this one to my knowledge, so we move straight to questions for Sinead, if we have any on this one. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just on page 4 of the report, paragraph 14. There's a mention of Guildford Town Centre. I'm just wondering, is that of any relevance or is it a mistake? Reason paragraph there.
Copy of the previous one too, so it must have been in the previous one, but that's no, it's Armagh City.
All right.
Thanks for that.
No problem.
If you're minded, okay, do you mind if members allow me to revise that condition, maybe it's part of proposal?
I think we'd all be content to recommend that. It's good to see we're reading our notes. Okay, members, any other queries on this one? Don't see any hands up or lights on, members, so we'll push on then to debate. I think it's been fairly self-explanatory in many respects, so I'll move on then to decision phase if we have a proposer in either direction. Councillor Wilson, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I propose accordingly with going with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Twyvell.
I'm very happy to second. Alderman Spears would appreciate.
Thank you. Okay, members, I don't see any other lights on, so we will conclude Appendix 5, going with the officer's recommendation, and move then to Appendix 6. I understand Liam is going to present this one, so when you're ready, Liam, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks full plan information for the relocation of a previously approved dwelling. Members are advised that the approval granted under N 2014-0084F remains an extant approval. A CLUD was submitted by the applicant to confirm commencement in accordance with the development as approved. This CLUD was granted by officers on the 9th of the 3rd, 2022 to verify the approval remained extant. This represents a fallback position for the applicant in that the approved dwelling could be built out at full at any time. Officers are of the opinion that this should be given determined weight in the overall plan balancing exercise in relation to the principle of development. And in that regard, the principle of development for this proposal is established. The proposed development is for the same house type as previously approved. The relocation involves moving the approved footprint of the dwelling partially off the approved position of the previously approved footprint. Officers consider that the only difference to that previously approved relates to the siting and orientation only. Officers are satisfied that the design of the dwelling is appropriate in scale and layout and would not be out of character with the surrounding area immediately in the vicinity of the site. The proposed development will not be visually prominent and will be fully compliant with the SPPS and CTY 13 of PPS 21. Officers are also content that the dwelling is respectful of the existing pattern of development and would not result in the erosion of rural character. In that regard, officers are being mindful of the fallback position of the applicant. Officers consider that the proposed dwelling would comply with policy CTY 14 of PPS 21 and the corresponding paragraphs of the SPPS. Due to the separation distances involved, 65 metres in this instance, and intervening vegetation, there will be no unacceptable loss of amenity to existing or proposed residents. Officers have consulted with DFI Roads regarding the proposed access and parking, who have advised their content. In that regard, officers are satisfied that the proposed development complies with AMP2 and AMP7 of PPS 3 and the SPPS. As the entrance to the site was in an area of flood pondage, officers consulted with Rivers, was submitted at the request of officers and then reviewed by Rivers, who advised they had no objections. Officers are therefore satisfied the proposal complies with all aspects of PPS 15. The application site was also in proximity to the south-north pipeline. The Health and Safety Executive of Northern Ireland are the statutory consultee for developments within this consultation zone. ESNI have been consulted and raised no objection to the proposed development, but advised that officers should contact the pipeline operator before reaching a decision. Officers did consult with the pipeline operator, who did advise that the proposal was outside of any way leave and therefore raised no objection. Approval is recommended subject to conditions, and there were no third-party representations received. The only reason the application is before members is because it's an elected member of the council. We can just run through the PowerPoint. So this is just our site within the general area. An aerial view of the application site. Is a view of the existing foundations that were in situ and regularized through the CLUD.
is the area of the proposed laneway. You can see it running up the existing boundary. And as you can see the mature vegetation between number 141 and the Moor Road. And this is the access point onto the Moor Road, and you can see the dwellings at the other side of the road. This is our proposed site plan. Just you can maybe make out the indicative footprint as previously approved. In a sense, the dwelling has really just been turned maybe 30 or 40 degrees. These are the proposed elevations as previously approved. There's been no change to the house type design on the other elevations. Thank you.
Okay, members. No one presenting on this one to my knowledge, so we'll move into the questions phase if we have any. Don't see any questions at this stage. I know it has been said the only reason it's here is due to that note that it is an elected member's application. So we content enough then to move to the debate phase. Any particular views? Mr. Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Liam, for the comprehensive report. And as Liam says, like, you know, it's just a change of the site. You know, all the statutory consultees have been in touch and there's no issues with it. So I can't say we're having a problem. Just to confirm, it's Kyle Savage, not Kevin Savage, making an application. Members, should everybody pick up on it? So look, I brought a content with it and I don't have any issues. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, members. Okay, I'll move to the decision phase. I don't want to drag this out any longer than necessary. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Chair. I second Councillor Wilson's proposal.
Thank you. Okay, don't see any other lights on or hands up, so we'll consider that one dealt with, and we'll move to Appendix 7. And Trudy is back in the hot seat for this one, so thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a replacement of an existing replica Iron Age structure at the Navan Centre in Armagh and is before you this evening as it has been submitted by the Council. Officers consider that the Navan Fort Centre is an existing and established tourist amenity. Policy TSM2 of PPS 16, Tourist Amenities in the Countryside, permits the extension of an existing tourist amenity where the scale, nature and proposal does not harm the rural character, landscape quality or environmental integrity of the local area. The site at present has an existing replica of an Iron Age house. Its round walls are constructed with woven hazel and it has a thatched roof. This structure is used as an educational tool as part of the Navan Centre and Fort experience, and it is proposed to replace this structure with a new replica constructed in the same manner, in the same location and for the same purpose. As this will be a like-for-like replacement, officers are of the opinion that the proposal will not harm the rural character, the landscape quality or the environmental integrity of the local area, and therefore complies with Policy TSM2 and the corresponding sections of the SPPS. This area, being in close proximity to Navan Fort, is rich in archaeological potential, and as such, Historic Monuments Division, we have not raised any objection to the proposal, have asked for a number of conditions to be included in any decision notice, and these have been detailed in the report circulated to members in advance of the meeting. Given the existing structures to be removed, the application was accompanied by a biodiversity checklist and a BAT emergence survey. Natural Environment Division were consulted in relation to this information and raised no objections in relation to the proposal. Members are advised that no objections were received from any third parties during the processing of the application. Officers have taken into consideration all matters raised in response to consultation and recommend the planning permission be granted. And I'll just take you through the PowerPoint, please. So that's our location just west of Armagh City. Our site location plan. Our aerial photograph of the site. The round circle in the middle beside the blue area is Navan Fort itself, and then the centre is just to the southwest of that. And the next slide should be a close-up of the centre then. So this is the centre. It shows you the access in off the road. The car parking areas and the buildings are predominantly hidden given the design of them. They've got a green roof to them. So if we go to the next slide, you can see, so the Navan Centre itself are the two circular ones to the top right of the picture. What we're looking at is the circular structure to the left of the picture. So that's our little structure we're going to replace. Next slide, please. So this is a heritage map, just to give you an idea. So that whole area extends to 414 hectares of archaeological potential, and our site's pretty much in the middle of them. So the next slide then shows the actual structure to be replaced. So the existing fence is to be retained with some of the slats replaced if necessary. And then if the next one then, so this is taken from the back looking down. So this whole area is used for educational purposes. And the next ones then. So these are pictures of the building. You can see the roof of the structure has seen somewhat better days. And then these are the existing plans, followed by the proposed plans. So the idea is essentially same idea again, except this time we'll have a roof that's not collapsing in on itself. And that's our proposed layout, and that should be us. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think our planners were about in the Iron Age to check the original structure, so we'll have to wing it a bit in that regard. But I'll say no more. Members, any particular questions on this one? Nope, don't see any. Okay, we're seeing the finish line, maybe, are we here? Okay, we'll go to debate. I suppose as an old Armagh City and District councillor, but not that old, not the Iron Age, but I can see the merits of this certainly in terms of protecting the heritage and ensuring that we have a good, suitable visitor attraction there at the Navan. So I would be fairly content with the replacement of it and ensuring that there's continuance at the site there for many more years to come. Councillor Savage.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Yep, so totally agree with what you said. I think I'm really surprised that the building's still up. But there was a council visit to it a few years ago, and it's truly painted out the roof and the structure inside of it weren't in great shape. So I think this is something we would have to support to keep the show on the road out in Navanfort. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, I'll move to the decisions phase, and I'm happy enough to propose it. Councillor Lavery.
Yeah, Chair, I'd be content to second your proposal. I was there myself about 2 years ago and noticed the roof as well. So I think it's long overdue. A wee bit of improvement works carried out, and that's very important historical site for future generations to experience the history of the site in terms of all that education without having the roof collapsing above their head. So content to second, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands up or lights on, so we'll consider that dealt with, and we'll move to our last application, which is Appendix 8. And Kyle is going to present on this one. So Kyle, when you're ready, thank you.
This application seeks to discharge condition 13 of plan approval LA08 2021-1015F, which was for 177 residential units along the Newry Road in Banbridge. Condition 13 of the aforementioned approval states no development shall commence on site until a final construction environmental management plan is submitted to and agreed by the council. The SEMP shall, shall include but not be restricted to location of contractor compound, car parking site accommodation and storage areas. Location of fuel and oil will be stored. There shall be at least 10 metres from the open water course. How construction traffic will access will be dealt with, notably delivery routes, site access, delivery management, deliveries to the site, daily traffic movements, public road cleanliness. Excavated topsoil where they will be stockpiled in place. Location and specification of silt fences, drainage grips and settlement tanks, which will be used to prevent uncontrolled runoff containing suspended solids being discharged from the site.
shall demonstrate effective avoidance and mitigation methodologies have been planned for the protection of the water environment. And the reason was to ensure no significant impact upon the environment or amenity during construction and agree appropriate and necessary mitigation measures. The application is required to go before the planning committee as it is seeking to discharge a condition of a major planning application. Officers have taken, members have read the report in full, and as such, this is a synopsis only. So condition 13 of plan approval LAO 8 2021 1015F was suggested by the Natural Environment Division and Water Management Unit of DAERA. The condition was deemed necessary to protect the environment and amenity during the construction process and to agree appropriate and necessary mitigation measures. In support of this application, a final construction and environmental management plan has been provided. As discussed in detail in the report, officers consider that this plan has sufficiently provided detail in relation to each element of condition 13. Members are also advised that DAERA were consulted regarding this plan, and both the Water Management Unit and Natural Environment Division advised that they are content for condition 13 to be discharged. Based on this recommendation from the Water Management Unit and Natural Environment Division, officers, having also considered the contents of the plan or of the opinion that the obligations of condition 13 have been met in this submission, and therefore recommend that condition 13 is discharged. We don't have a presentation for this application.
Okay, members, and there's obviously no one presenting, so I'm happy to take any questions we have. Okay, I know it's probably running the middle in terms of towards the later part of our meetings, we get these conditional type applications, but if anybody has a query, now's the time to raise it, or I'll move straight into debate. So move to debate, members. I think we're content. I'm reading the room here, so I'm happy enough to move to decision and propose. If I could have a seconder. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to second your proposal. Thank you.
Okay, members, that concludes our meeting, and we're done in fairly quick time. So thanks for that. Just before we stop the live feed, I think Councillor Cosby is potentially your very last council meeting. Is that correct? Your last committee. So I know we've done some formalities at the monthly, but just I suppose from all of us on the planning committee, I want to wish you well as you move into the next phase of your employment life, if you like, and as you approach this new challenge. Wish you all the best. Thanks for your contributions. I know you were on a few times on committee when you were covering for. I think you covered for me when I was in the mayoral seat, and I really appreciate that. And I know you've done a good job here in the planning committee as well. So thanks for that on behalf of the committee, and wish you all the best. Alderman Barr.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Unfortunately, I'm not there to be able to see Councillor Cosby finishing on his last committee meeting. I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of my own personal family and our party group to wish him well. I know whenever he was Lord Mayor, I think we were up in Rothrind, and I joked that sure the Lord Mayor will buy Cody something from the shop. And sure enough, he did. He went, I think it was about £20, which I was really taken back by. But no, I just want to say thank you. And it does show you what type of person you really are, and wish you well in your future career, and same to your family. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Barr. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Cosby for all the help and advice and support he has given me from I came onto council, and especially onto the planning committee, because it can be a bit of a minefield at times. But from the short time I've been here, just over a year and a half, Councillor Cosby has always been very supportive and always give me good advice and pointed me in the right direction. So we'd just like to wish Darren and his family all the very best in the future moving forward. I know he'll not be a stranger, but wish him the best in his new career moving forward. Thank you.
You, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I likewise would like to wish Councillor Cosby all the best for the future. He has a very forensic approach to committees and council, and particularly planning. And I'd like to thank him for that. He was able to get to the nub of the matter quite quickly on many occasions in planning, and his input will certainly be missed going forward. So thank you, Chair.
Councillor Crosby.
Alderman Andrew.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll concur with all the remarks previous. I can go back on Darren referred to these in the main council meeting, the last main council meeting. When he came on to council, a bright young budding star at I think mid-20s or something at the time. He didn't know when we were suggesting that he run for a seat in Portadown area, and he had his community connections. So the decision was taken, and we did get Darren squeaked in at the last seat in the 2011 election, which was a tremendous achievement for Darren. But it proves the character of the man, that coming from those humble beginnings in relation to elected politics, he certainly proved to be an outstanding councillor and progressed, and he was the first Lord Mayor into the ABC Council and increased his vote by probably tenfold, I would say. Can't remember the figures, but they're quite fascinating. So he did very well, and he was very well liked and served his community really well. He will be missed with us in the council here. He'll be missed in his community and the work that he did. But knowing Darren, no doubt, he will still be about. He will still be there offering his good advice when someone needs it. And I'll wish Darren and his good missus and the two boys every success and happiness in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Councillor Cosby, final word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thanks, members, for your kind, if not a wee bit embarrassing comments. I really appreciate them. I value them. And my wife watched the council meeting, and she was very appreciative of the kind words of support that she felt as well at that time. And we're very grateful for your prayers. I have had a love-hate relationship with this committee, I think it's fair to say. And I was in and out of it like a yo-yo, I suppose, and that largely was to do with one. And I had forgot, Mr. Chairman, that it was your fault I had to come here in the first place, because I was the only other one that had the training. And I got the training, and then it's my fault, Councillor Wilson, that you're actually here, because last year when I took leave of my senses and went as an independent for a short period of time, it was my fault that you ended up on the committee, and then Councillor McClellan's fault that I ended up back here. But I have enjoyed the planning committee despite what I say. The time commitment is huge for members, and that is not just about being here, it's the prep work that you have to go through in order to kind of get yourself up to speed on what's coming for the meeting. And Ruth sent addendums and everybody's firing through legal opinions and all that sort of stuff. So there's a huge amount of time that goes into that for members, but an enormous amount of time that officers put into that as well. So I just want to say to the officers of the planning, in the planning department and the support staff who this forum wouldn't function without, that we really appreciate. I've really appreciated your support, your advice and your help with applications and queries and your diligence, despite sometimes the forensic questioning. I don't think, in this council broadly across the board, we have an enormous amount of talent and professional staff that as members we should be really proud of. And on a personal level, I'm actually going to be proud to join as an officer on Monday in the Community Development Department. So thank you very much, and I wish you all well. You won't hopefully see me back in this forum again, But I know and suspect that I might be in other places, in other committees at appropriate times. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the best as well. Thank you.
Damien? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, look, just on behalf of the officer team, just like to wish Councillor Cosby all the very best in his new role. I'm sure it'll go extremely well, and thank you for the kind words, but also for your support over the time as well. So good luck for the future.
Thank you very much. I think there is some food after the meeting. Yeah, so if we can hang on for that. And Daniel, thanks for your help to keeping us online and offline and all the rest of it. Thank you. If we could just stop the live feed.